Hey everybody, Karen here. Welcome back to Unpinned Creative. I'm going to do some more work with you in this journal today. Since the last video, I haven't done very much, but I've done a little bit. So this page here I am leaving as it is. These ones I've started de-stressing, but I'm going to de-stress them a wee bit more, I think. I have added a journal card into here. This has an aluminium flower on it, which I created from a tin can, and just journaling space on the back. That fits into that beautiful big pocket, and there's heaps of room to pop more stuff in if you want to. For the belly bands, I've just put a piece of distressed paper for journaling space, and then created another journaling space here from a book page with writing space on the back. This is actually a piece of wrapping paper, the back of wrapping paper, so it sounds and feels really cool. And I've stitched around that and just inked around the edges. That fits into that little tuck spot. I think I'm going to leave this page, but I'm going to work on this with you today. So I'm just going to have a play and see what we can come up with. This is obviously a little pocket and this is a little tuck spot, but I think I'm going to turn that into something else. Okay, let's figure it out. Okay, so I have a piece of music here. This is out of a Christmas Carols book. I'm going to make that square. And I think I'll turn this into an envelope. So I want to start off with a square-ish piece of paper rather than a rectangle. Fold up the bottom. Fold in the sides to meet in the middle. And fold down the top. Easy peasy. So it's not particularly square, but it's the shape of an envelope. Let me see if I can straighten that up a wee bit. Okay, so this is the plan. I think I'm going to attach the bottom of this envelope to this flap here, and then I'll have the other flaps folding down on top of it. Actually, let me make sure I can still close that page. Yep. Cool. I'm just going to trim the corners. So I'm just cutting on a slight angle where those folds are. better. And I'll do the same down the bottom here. So this is just a really quick and simple envelope style. As I said, it's not very square or accurate, but I'm happy with that. Okay, and then I'm going to, I think I'll leave the outside as it is. I'm going to ink it up though, and I'm going to pop some paper on the inside, cover that up a bit. This piece will work. Okay, so that's just a scrap of paper, and I'm just going to tear that down to the right size. So as with basically everything I do, there's very little actual measuring and a lot of just working with what I've got. Alright, I'm going to ink that. I'm not being too careful because I want it kind of grungy and worn. So wrinkled is good. And I'm just going to stitch around that. Okay, ink it up. I think I'll get my proper inker. This is not my proper inker. This is a tool I use for something else, which I'll show you another time. Here's my proper inker. So I'm just doing... Alright, so for some reason my camera shut off midway through filming all of this, so I'm sorry you've missed out on quite a bit. But all I did with this envelope that I had made is stitched the piece of paper onto the center there, and then I glued down the two sides and the bottom and stuck that down onto the page, and then I glued this bottom flap onto this little tuck spot thingy that I had made, inked around all the edges. Pretty easy peasy, and that is now a journaling spot and a pocket. So now what I am doing is making tags for this little tuck spot and this pocket that I created here. So all I have done is taken two pieces of card cut in a tag shape. I have put some tissue paper, a paper towel that had ink on it from another project that I was doing, and put that on the back as a journaling spot, and then on the front I've just created a collage background with scraps from my scrap box. And so I am up to now doing the focal point and you're all caught up, so I'm really sorry about that. And I chatted a lot. I chatted the whole time about my cats and and all about the gesso that I use for gluing down tissue and how good it is and blah blah blah. So hopefully I'm not all talked out now, and I will continue to talk to you through the rest of this video. Right, first of all I'm going to create a focal point, and for this one I'm going to use this die that I have, this Christmas tree die. It's called a snowflake tree, and it's made in the USA, and it's a memory box one. It will be quite old. I have probably had it for 10 years or so, so I don't know if it will still be available, but I think I'm going to cut out some of those and pop them onto this tag here. So I'll go and do that and I'll be back. Okay, so what I have used to cut out this first one is just a piece, a book page. So it's a glossy page from a photography book. This is the page. It had a fly on it. That was part of the photo. So obviously it wasn't really, you know, not something I probably would use in a journal, but the colour, the yellow is amazing. So I've been using it for punching out things, and that's what I've used for this die, which is a wee bit tricky to disentangle. Do I want that on this one? Yes, I think I do. Okay, what's the time? 10:30. We're good. Okay, I think I'm going to go onto this piece of scrap with my clear gesso. So what I was saying about the clear gesso is this is homemade clear gesso. If you want to see how I make it, I posted a video not that long ago about how I make clear gesso and the texture paste that I use, and tells you how I use it and stuff like that. But mostly I use clear gesso for laying down tissue, and anything that's really lightweight. It's brilliant for sticking lightweight stuff down, and it dries clear and it dries fast, so I love it. It's also brilliant for taking the shine off of glossy pages, and if you watch that video where I showed you how I make it, I show you examples of that, I think. So I use it like for that all the time. Alrighty. And it's good for prepping pages for doing mixed media artwork and stuff like that. It gives some grit to the page, and dries completely clear. So yeah, it's brilliant. Now I'm just going to tear this. I'm going to dry it first and then I'll tear it, I think. Okay, that will be dry enough. Also a quick tip for drying stuff with your heat gun. Dry both sides, so dry from the back as well as the front. It dries much faster and more evenly, and you get less curling that way, in my experience. Pretty. I'm going to stitch around this and I'll be back. Yep, I am happy with that. So I like to glue within the stitching line, and then you get kind of a textured ratty edge around the outside. Alright, now to finish off I'm going to ink. I'm going to use blue. Blue and green is kind of the colour scheme of this journal, so that's why I'm using blue and green ink for inking. And then I just want something at the top here. I picked up these eyelets at the op shop the other day, which I was very happy about because I very rarely find craft stuff, actual craft supplies, you know, like, yeah, craft supplies you'd buy in a craft shop at the op shop. But look at this cool eyelet. I love it. So I'm going to pop that on there, I think. We'll see if it works in my... I don't think it'll work in my crocodile. I'll punch a hole. Just measuring by eye. And then let's see how I can flatten it, because it won't work in the crocodile. Let's see if it will work with this. Perfect. Okay, and the top there, what am I going to put? I'm going to put some string. And some ribbon and a piece of leather cord. I'm going to wrap this twine around it. And make a little bow. There we go. That's a cute little tag, I think. All right. That one can fit in there like that. Maybe there. Let's work on the other one. Okay, so as I was saying yesterday, I don't really use digitals in my journals, not because I have anything against them. I love digitals. I think they're beautiful. I think the artists are amazing, and journals made with them are stunning. But I mostly use pre-loved, used and found items in my journals, and so I don't use digitals. I try and make my focal points or use book pages or book images, and my books I all pick up from thrift shops and places like that. So for this tag, that being said, this tag, I mean, yeah. I like to stretch my brain, I guess, to figure out how I can create something just using what I have around me. So for this tag, I have grabbed an embossing folder. It's a Cuttlebug one. It is a holly branch. I've had it for probably nearly 20 years. Yeah. And I have embossed a piece of patterned paper. And I'm just going to cut around the shape of that embossing. And I'm not sure which side I'll use yet because I quite like this white side, even though that's technically the wrong side. So doing some unfussy cutting. So I'm sure you've heard it said before, but the easiest way to fussy cut something is to move the paper rather than your scissors when you're cutting around corners and stuff like that. If you watch Rachel at Roxy Creations, the way she cuts out stuff is amazing. It blows me away how quickly she can do it and accurately. And she does this as well, moving the paper rather than the scissors. There we go. So it's a bit hard to see the embossing on this side of the patterned paper, and I guess that's always the issue with embossing patterned paper, but I thought the colour might be quite cool. So what I could do to bring out the embossing is grab an ink pad and run it over the top. So you can see that much more clearly now. And I knew this piece wasn't going to fit on. I did actually try it. I knew it wasn't going to quite fit on the tag, but I was okay with that because I'll just trim off the extra bits. Yeah, and then I think I'm going to use this little stamp down here. So I'm going to stamp that onto, what am I going to stamp that onto? I am going to stamp that onto a piece of brown paper. Yep, piece of brown paper. And I'll stamp it in black. Perfect. This is a Stampin' Up set. Again, I've had it for a long time, at least 10 years, and it's called Welcome Christmas. It may or may not still be available. I don't really keep up with that sort of thing anymore. Then I'm going to tear the edges. Yep, and I'm going to stitch around that. Perfect. All right. That's what we have. That's what we have. Okay, so again, I just glue inside the stitch line. Didn't shut my glue. So it is way more time consuming doing journals like this, because there's a lot more kind of thinking time, I suppose, figuring out what you're going to do. But it's so much fun. And each one is so completely unique this way. Not that I'm trying to justify why I don't use digitals. I would love to use digitals if I could just convince my brain to go ahead and start doing it. I think maybe I'm nervous that I wouldn't stop, and then I'd just end up with so many supplies, because I already have so many. Okay, I'm going to snip off those edges. Yeah. And ink. Cool. Needs a few more bits and pieces. It's a bit bare, this one, still. So even though this one, all I added was this piece, the background is quite busy, so with the lace and the pattern on this wrapping paper, so I felt like it didn't really need too much more. But this one feels like it needs more because the background is so much plainer. Put the lid on my ink pad. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some of the snowflakes that I have been using throughout the journal. So if you haven't seen my other videos, I picked these up secondhand. I don't know where they've come from. I just have a bag of them, and I've just used them sporadically throughout the journal. And then that kind of just finishes it off, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think of this type of a journal or this type of creating. It's so different to the crafters that, or the creators that I watch, I suppose, so I guess it makes me a bit nervous that it's a bit too random and wacky for you guys. But I kind of want to inspire people to think about using things in different ways, and just because that's something that I have done all my life. Okay, so what I'm going to do when these two are dry properly, so the glue in the background is still a bit wet, once they're dry properly I'm going to stitch around the outside of both of them. And I've got to put an eyelet in this one, but I'm not going to do that until the glue is dry, because I don't want it gumming up my needle on my sewing machine. Because my sewing machine I actually use for sewing, like sewing clothes and stuff, which is my other job. Alright, so I'm happy with that. We need an eyelet. Do we want the same eyelet? Or a different one? Oh, yep, I think we'll have the same one. So this little tool is brilliant. It's a Craft Silent Setter, and I was gifted it by a very beautiful friend who is so lovely and gives me craft supplies all the time. And it's really handy for stuff that you can't do in your crocodile, and it, but only particular eyelets work in it. Some of them are too hard to do by hand. Yeah. Right, this one I'm going to put some ribbon and the leather cord through. And then I'm going to use a little piece of gingham ribbon to tie that in a bow. There we go. Just one little leg on that one because the other one is too short. Cool. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I've got to head off to horse riding. So they are done, except that I will stitch around the outside once the glue is completely dry. Now just to decide where I want them. Yeah, I think like that. Alright, so this page, we have the hidden journaling spot there in the shape of an envelope made from a music page with the tag in the pocket behind. And then this little tag, both have journaling spots on the back, and that little pocket. So let's pop it in the journal and see how it looks. Yep. Cool, cool, cool. I love it. And those, I forgot there were snowflakes there, so that fits perfectly. Excellent. Alright, thanks so much for joining me again today. And sorry it's a bit hodgepodge and the video stopped and you missed half of it. I will hopefully be back very soon, and I'll see you in the next one.